Greetings, Cyclones everywhere. Welcome to this virtual celebration of the 2021 recipients of the Iowa State University Alumni Association's Faculty Staff Inspiration Awards. The Alumni Association established this award in 2011. This honor presents a way for former ISU students to recognize current or former ISU faculty or staff members who had a significant influence in their lives as students at Iowa State. The Faculty Staff Inspiration Awards program is funded by the Nancy and Richard Degner Alumni Association Endowment. Nancy and Rich are both proud ISU graduates and life members of the Alumni Association. They are also sustaining donors, serving a crucial role in the association's mission of engaging diverse partners to showcase the work and accomplishments of Iowa State University and Cyclones everywhere. Every day, faculty and staff at our university demonstrate the determination of Iowa Staters, making their communities, the state of Iowa, and the world a better place. This year marks the 10th year anniversary of this award. Including today's class of 3 awardees, 56 faculty and staff have received this honor. Past recipients can be found on our website at isualum.org. While we can't meet in person, we know that the hard work of those we are celebrating today is a testament to the tenacity of Cyclones everywhere. Each recipient has received a hand-sculpted cardinal and gold glass award from the ISU Gaffers Guild, which is the artistic glass-blowing club here on campus. Thank you to the Gaffers Guild for creating these beautiful awards. We have asked a former student or nominator to speak on behalf of each award recipient. You may also read in detail about the award recipients on our website, which is linked in the comments section. Our first award recipient is Dr. Brianna Burke. Brianna Burke is an Associate Professor of Environmental Humanities in the Department of English, Environmental Studies, and American Indian Studies. She is an accomplished author, academic presenter, and has been recognized for her research and writing. To share more about Brianna is Libby Bohr. Libby graduated from Iowa State in 2015 with a degree in English and currently works as a registered nurse at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and lives in Madison, Wisconsin.
During my time at Iowa State University, no person influenced my personal growth and professional goals more than Dr. Brianna Burke, and it gives me great pleasure to nominate her for the ISU Alumni Association Faculty Staff Inspiration Award. In the courses she develops, Dr. Burke inspires students by creating challenging, beautiful, and thought-provoking courses, all while serving on committees, mentoring clubs, publishing, participating in conference panels, and advising graduate students, and that is just to name a few of her many contributions to Iowa State. Students recognize Dr. Burke as a dedicated professor who sees every one of us as much more than just a grade or paper. She wants to know who her students are, what major they study, their experiences, the struggles they face, and in doing so, gives us perhaps the most important gift of knowing that we're not alone in our struggles. With her guidance, students see that we have something to offer the world. I can't speak highly enough about Dr. Burke's curriculum and classroom experience. I specifically remember the first day of post-colonial literature. We were all handed a blank map of the Global South and asked to fill it in to the best of our abilities, and then talk about why none of us really could, even half of the countries. And that exercise opened my eyes to how much of the world I do not know about, and I was immediately captivated by the idea of broadening my perspective and the impacts of globalization, and we all just discussed what that meant to each of us in this space that Dr. Burke had created. We learned how to listen to each other and then how to understand our own ideological biases. During Dr. Burke's Literature and the Environment class, we kept a journal, noting every item we threw away or recycled for 1 week. and really gained an appreciation for the amount of material we dispose of in our daily lives. She challenged us to look at the systems in which we live and reckon with these imperfections that have been in front of us the whole time, like my notions of recycling and how many resources I consume. To this day, I treasure her engaging classroom lectures where we learned how to acknowledge and confront our roles in these imperfect systems. The content was often difficult and emotionally draining, but at the end of the semester, Dr. Burke would leave us feeling inspired to create positive change. And it takes a really special individual to guide us through such tough topics and then leave us with a feeling of hope. I was lucky enough to be Professor Burke's research assistant in the 2013-2014 school year, where I learned about her many areas of research, including environmental justice, climate change in literature, and eco-criticism. Because of Dr. Burke's research in the environmental humanities and her tireless commitment to educating, I learned about the health effects of climate change and how the body responds to environmental injury, and I was inspired to pursue a career in healthcare as a nurse. She gave me the tools to find my passion, as she does all her students, and always with an accepting and honest ear. Brianna taught me to notice injustice, think critically, work hard, acknowledge my privilege, be honest in research, and most of all, she taught me to be resilient in my efforts to positively impact the world, and it makes me a better nurse every day. Dr. Burke's excellence as a researcher and professor is perhaps best shown in how her classes relate to all aspects of her students' lives. I feel as though the lessons she taught permeate throughout my daily life and give me a level of cognizance about our world I never would have obtained without her guidance. I cannot think of anyone more deserving for the Inspiration Award, and I am so proud to have been her student. Thank you, Dr. Burke.
Thank you for those comments, Libby. Our next recipient is Giles Fowler. Giles Fowler was an associate professor emeritus at the Greenlee School of Journalism. Beginning his career as a journalist, he worked at the Kansas City Star and the Times of London before coming to Iowa State in 1982. Giles captivated his students with his storytelling abilities and his enthusiasm for journalism. He retired from ISU in 2002 and passed away in 2018. Sharing more about Giles is one of his nominators, Patrick Beach. Patrick attended Iowa State in the 1980s. He currently works as an author and magazine journalist in Austin, Texas.
I remember in Giles's office on the second floor of what was then called the press building, he had a needlepoint framed on his wall, and it said, "If your mother says she loves you, check it out," which is one of the things you learn in basic reporting. And Giles did teach 201 and 202, the nuts and bolts of reporting. But I learned a lot more in some of his more advanced classes, a great deal in his depth reporting class. That's what he called it. What we, his students, called it was death reporting, because over the course of a semester, you worked on all of 2 stories, magazine-style stories, and you went through rounds of edits. And I enjoyed it so very much. And of course, what he was doing with demanding these edits was preparing his students for magazine-style editing, where you can go through 8, 9, 10 levels of editing even before you get to the fact checker. But of course, we didn't know it back then. I got lucky, and on my second draft, I think he sent me back my marked up story, and he gave me a good grade. And at the top, he wrote, "You're a goddamn writer, Beach." And it meant so much coming from him, because I loved him already. As my friend Mark Flores said, if you took a class from Giles, you weren't trying to earn a good grade. You wanted him to appreciate your work and to, have some respect for your work. And that class led to a story that won a William Randolph Hearst Foundation Award. And that award, I suspect, had a lot to do with my winning my first internship at the Des Moines Register, which led to another internship at the Des Moines Register and another internship at the Des Moines Register. And eventually, after I graduated, a job at the Des Moines Register. So I owe a lot to him just from that one single class. Another class I enjoyed very much was his criticism class because of his background as the film writer and arts critic at the Kansas City Star. And I later became a critic myself, a music critic. And I carried a number of the principles he taught in that class with me through my career for my 6 years as a full-time music writer. And I still do it to some extent to this day. I'm talking about Giles academically, but of course there was a lot more to the guy. He was so much fun. I remember when he would tell stories about work back in the journalism days, you know, he would be telegraphing that you could have a really interesting life if you pursued this line of work. And he was similarly infectious in the classroom. He did a bit about the intersection of journalism and literature. He was a huge Hemingway fan because Hemingway worked for the Kansas City Star for, 15 minutes or so. But I remember he would be reading Hemingway from the lectern, and you could see his eyes get really big. And that was sort of telegraphing to all of us, here comes the really good stuff. You guys pay attention. So I just loved everything about him in and out of the classroom. Of course, he had kids of his own, but I regard him as all but a second father to me. And I'm really delighted that he's getting this award posthumously. And it's hard to think of him in a posthumous sense because anybody who knew him will remember him forever. And I certainly will, because after he died, that needlepoint that hung in his office wall that Veronica did for him showed up in my mailbox. This hangs on my kitchen wall, which is the last door I go through before I go out to report a story. So you can say, every time I leave the house to go into the field to do a story, I'm thinking about Giles.
Thank you, Patrick. Our final recipient is Dr. Manju Reddy. Manju Reddy is a professor and the Doris A. Adams Endowed Chair in the Department of Food Science and Human Nutrition. She is also an affiliated faculty member in the Interdepartmental Toxicology and the Global Resource Systems program at ISU. Manju has mentored numerous graduate and undergraduate students, with a number of her mentees being honored with prestigious awards and currently enjoying successful professional careers. So sharing more about Dr. Reddy is Amanda Breeze. Amanda graduated from Iowa State in 2016 with a degree in dietetics, in 2017 with a master's degree in nutritional sciences, and in 2020 with her PhD in nutritional sciences. She currently works at KBI Biopharma and lives in Research Triangle Park of North Carolina.
Well, hello, Cyclone Nation. I was very pleased to hear that Dr. Manju Reddy was awarded the Faculty Inspiration Award from the Alumni Association. As many of you who personally know Manju, she has dedicated herself wholeheartedly to her research and students. Her passion for the field of iron deficiency anemia and toxicity as it relates to malnutrition and disease has really brought her endless success here at Iowa State University. But more importantly, she's been able to share her passion with each of her students to help each and every one of us blossom into the professionals today. Over the course of 5 years that I've worked with Manju, I've had the honor of developing and acquiring the skill sets from Manju to make me the scientist currently, that I am today. Through the guidance of Manju, I was able to carry out several clinical trials in under 2 years, resulting in numerous publications, professional conferences, and a high level of support from other scientific collaborators in Ames, Iowa. Through this experience, Dr. Reddy also granted me a once-in-a-lifetime chance to travel to Norwich, United Kingdom, and present our research findings among some of the most world-renowned scientists in our field of iron deficiency. The outcome of this trip translated into more research opportunities for Manju, a broader professional network for myself, and truly a long-lasting friendship between the both of us. Beyond my own endeavors, Manju has inspired students to use research as a powerful tool to address malnutrition globally. More recently, her graduate student, Isaac Agbamoffel, completed his PhD, which was focused on addressing iron and protein malnutrition through sustainable food sources such as edible insects. It is because of Dr. Reddy that now Dr. Isaac Agbamoffel was able to continue his pursuit of addressing malnutrition in his home country of Ghana with the foundational research that he completed under Dr. Manju Reddy. It is apparent when you meet Manju that her spirit and refreshing candor are absolutely contagious. I'm happy to call her both a friend and colleague, and again thank the Alumni Association for granting this well-deserved award for Dr. Manju Reddy.
What inspiring comments from our nominators. Thank you all for sharing those inspirational comments with us. I would now like to share some pre-recorded remarks from each of our award recipients. Brianna Burke, Manju Reddy, and accepting the award for his father, Giles Fowler, Will Fowler.
I never thought I would work at a large state school, especially one as large as Iowa State. I grew up in New England and went to a small private liberal arts institution, although I had taught at 10 different places before coming here, from Georgetown University to the Boston Conservatory School for Performing Artists. All of those schools could fit inside Iowa State with room to spare. I was worried I would get lost here, that students would get lost here, that I wouldn't be able to work with them as deeply or as closely as I had hoped. But I was wrong on almost all fronts. And out of all the places I have ever taught, Iowa State students are by far my favorites. They are humble, kind, hardworking, sometimes to a fault because often they work additional jobs to pay for their education, but that also means they know the value of it. When I give them free rein on assignments, they always astound me with their creativity and imagination, and I learn as much from them as they do from me. One of the hidden benefits of working for a school as large as Iowa State is that it offers so many different majors, minors, and programs that it attracts many different kinds of minds and talents, which creates a fecund playground of interconnected ideas for someone who does interdisciplinary work, like I do. My favorite classes to teach are those cross-listed with American Indian Studies or Environmental Studies, the courses that draw minds from every field across the university and which lead to rich, wide-ranging, and deep conversations. The students fuel the work that I do, thinking about race in the environment as it manifests through culture and language and literature. Year after year, class after class, I meet bright, dedicated people who care about our planet, about each other, about making the world a better place. They give me hope for the future. And year after year, so many of the students I've had in my time teaching here get back in touch with me on a regular basis. I am a one-woman social media hub. They write to ask me for job advice, for resources and materials, to tell me what they've been reading, or just to update me about their lives. Students like Zoe Shipley, Isaiah Baker, Chloe Hildebrandski, Hannah Muma, Hayden Hank, Kelly Delaney, Isa Bruin Morningstar, Ray Stringfield, Mike Robbins, Brenda Tyrell, Lindsay Teig. And of course, the students that recommended me for this award today: Onyx Chartrand, currently a PhD student at Brandeis University; Bradley Adams, one of my very first students, now getting his degree in environmental law from Drake University; and Elizabeth, or Libby, Boyer, who went on to get a nursing degree and who is always thinking about how to learn more, how to do more with her education. Students like these are the real assets of Iowa State, reflect its character and its mission, as well as its impact in the world. And it has been one of the greatest honors and privileges of my life to work with them. It is easy to see your impact as a scholar through citations and seeing your name in articles or in other works, but it is much harder to see your impact as a teacher. Thank you, Alumni Association, for this award, and thank you, Anik, Bradley, and Libby for nominating me. I adore you.
First of all, I would like to thank Iowa State University Alumni Association and also Nancy and Richard Degner for funding for the Faculty Staff Inspiration Award. And a very special thanks goes to Dr. Amanda Breeze, who nominated me. In Amanda's case, I really didn't work hard to mentor her. And she basically inspired me to do the research studies because of her keen interest and also curiosity in learning. So it was really easy to mentor her. I won't call her just as my student. She's a good friend, basically. So her remarks were very touching, and which I read some of the remarks, and it mean a lot to me. And although we do things without any expectations from the students, but it brings so much joy to hear that we are appreciated and we made a difference in their lives. So I have been very fortunate to have wonderful graduate and undergrad students in the past 25 years at ISU. And I want to thank all of them for inspiring me to be successful at ISU. And by seeing students' enthusiasm for learning and intellectual curiosity, seeing their intellectual curiosity made me a better teacher and researcher, which I strongly believe that did happen. ISU and the College of Human Sciences is a great place to be, to attract good students and also create more collaborative research program. One thing I learned over the years that my role in advising or mentoring, I cannot practicing that one size fits all basis, because it depends on the need of the students. Sometimes I play an advisory role, sometimes a motherly role if they need, and most importantly, as a friendly role so that they can interact with me very casually too. So not only spending time on the students' academic career, I make sure to listen to their problems if they want to share, advise them if they want it, if they ask. So the best part of my job is interacting with the students, either in research or teaching. So after being in my class and interacting with me, some of the students chose to pursue graduate degree with me, which I somehow feel good knowing that I played a role in their professional career. So I strongly believe, my philosophy in mentoring and advising is strongly believe that respecting and encouraging the students without intimidating them, you can inspire the students better. I just want them to set highest goals they can achieve and follow through. That's important. That's the important message I give them. I mentored the students the way I was mentored when I was a postdoc or as a PhD student, and I had those two wonderful mentors. They helped me throughout my career, and I owe them a lot. And I think because of them, I am here. I am basically where I am today. Most importantly, my father taught me to be a respectful taught me to be respectful to others and believed in me more than I believed in myself. He was a self-learner and a very respectful community leader, and he greatly inspired me when I was growing up. I really want to end my remarks by quoting Maya Angelou, who said, my mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style, which I would like to practice throughout my professional and personal career. Thank you.
So my dad would have been honored to receive this award. He was the kind of person who loved awards, but was far too self-conscious to ever show them off. I remember when I was younger, he got a certificate or some sort of award for a book that he had written, and instead of getting it framed like I had suggested, he just sort of threw it on top of the piano with a bunch of grocery receipts and other errata and old documents, and it just kind of collected coffee stains for a while. And occasionally someone would, come over and notice this certificate and say something positive, and he would say, "Oh, it's nothing. They give those up to anybody. It's no big deal." But regardless of how he acted, recognition was something that was very important to my father. And it was equally important to him that recognition was well earned. I just heard that he got a bunch of different nominations for this, and that would have made him incredibly happy. Those of you who knew him knew that he was constantly questioning whether or not he had earned the things that he had in his life, because he had a deep sense of what was fairly earned and what wasn't. And at times that made him brutally honest, as I'm sure many of you as his students remember. In college, I sent him a story that I had been working on with another student, and my editor had completely messed up the story and torn it apart and deleted a bunch of stuff and rearranged everything. And I was pretty pissed off about it, and I sent him an email with the story, a link to the story, in it, expecting him to say, "Oh, it isn't really that bad. You did a good job anyway," or whatever. But instead, I got the same honesty that I always got from him, and he wrote, and I quote, "Your article bears every scar and bruise from the desk man's mad attack. You have solid sources and background, but I must admit that, to me at least, the story is pretty ragged and confusing. I found lots of gaps and structural problems." So, forgive my sour response. I have no doubt your original story was miles better than before the editor got to it with his mix master and chainsaw. In a way, it is better that you were listed second in the byline. So the sort of honest recognition of when things were bad was my dad's forte. And I'm sure many of you remember him that way. He always gave credit where it was due, even if it was sandwiched between lines about inadequacies. But the fact that he recognized your failures and the fact that he could, as he put it, be sour made his recognition and his compliments even sweeter and even more meaningful. The man was an eternal pessimist. So when a glimmer of positivity broke through, you knew that it was genuine. You knew that it came from somewhere deep, and you knew that you'd earned it. And that was what was important to him, was earning that sort of recognition. Ultimately, though, it was his students that kept him going. I was asked to talk about what inspired him, and really the only thing I can think of that inspired him as a teacher was seeing the success of his students after he had taught them, after they'd graduated. And a lot of them that I've spoken to, I'm sure I have a somewhat biased sample here, but a lot of them said that sort of honesty and that ability to recognize talent where it was a big help to them in their development as writers and journalists. And so I hope that he has truly earned this recognition, and I hope that he, I think that he would be really happy to know how many people nominated him, and yeah, I think that he would love to have seen this.
I want to congratulate each of our award recipients and thank their nominators. Again, our thanks to Rich and Nancy Degner for financially supporting this award and program. I also would encourage each of you watching to think about faculty and staff at ISU who inspired you in your professional or personal lives, and consider submitting a nomination to recognize them. The deadline to submit a nomination for next year's class is December 1st. This concludes our recognition program. Thank you for joining us.